Hello, good day, everyone. Today is 10/17/24. We have been a part of this Thoughtful Thursday when it comes to the NAACP, just kind of building up to the election, civic engagement series, get out the vote. We kind of kicked it off with the young folks Why Vote on the first Thursday. We partnered with the YWCA on the second Thursday. This is the third Thursday, and I'm honored. We're going to do self intros. I'm honored to have some people who I tap into for wisdom and for counsel, and been able to kind of grow in the city of York. CA days to, husband and father. It's love. Current press. Don't forget, next week we will be at Kyle Martin venue. This is all building up to the election. We're literally having a town hall candidates forum. And at this particular time, we're gonna kick off. It is 5:55. We are live on Facebook. Derek, we good?
Give me just a second. It started doing a live on my feed. Give me just a second.
No worries, because that's what it's all about. The virtual vibes, we make it work. And I want to make sure everybody get to see this, and we're gonna kind of share. So, today's topic is social political intelligence, and we're gonna kind of dive into that. But we're gonna kind of kick it off with for some self intros. I know I have a personal connection and story to everyone that's speaking here, because it's who we are. We are kind of we coexist, we live, we learn, and love each other, right? And the mama's boy and me, you already know, I'm an ass, past press, attorney, esquire, queen in our community, kind of kick us off with self intros, and we'll go popcorn style, and you would just kick it over to the judge if that's cool. Please. Thank you, Sandra.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm glad to be here. So I am Sandra Thompson, past president of York NAACP for probably about 8 years or so. I'm not doing the math. Also, past president of the state conference of NAACP, Pennsylvania NAACP. I am an attorney and just really, I say, advocate for the community. I'm about education, making sure that we can empower ourselves with knowledge. So that's what I do.
Okay, I'm Judge James H. Morgan. I'm a magisterial district judge in York City, the first African-American magisterial district judge in York County. I'm one of 19 judges in the county located in the city, and I am thankful for being here. I thank you, Jamil, and the NAACP for inviting me, and I am serious about encouraging people to get out and vote and express your concerns and interests in what's going on today. Thank you.
Thank you, Judge. Thank you, Attorney. So we're gonna dive right into it, y'all. We live on Facebook. Again, I appreciate the NAACP and even our comms team leader chair, Derek, for kind of managing things. Um, Social political intelligence, and it seemed like a far-fetched term, but like I said, I appreciate either whether it be the big homie, the big sis, uh, you know, me being able to talk, learn, and grow and get positive feedback. And I'm honored for you all to be here with us in this particular moment because there's a level of like distractions, misinformation going on. So when we talk about social political intelligence, like, could you all tell us or just kind of share your expertise? And Sister Queen, you already said, just empowering folks, dope. But then even the brother Judge, like there's a level of like, some of the things that you went through and just me witnessing you being where you are right now. Anybody can kick it off. Social political intelligence, what it is, how do you feel, and how do you inspire, encourage, and uplift?
Well, I think the first thing I think is that the distractions. We are so bogged down with life. We talk about the rents being high, wages being low, groceries being high, gas high. So and we're continuing to work to make it like rats on the wheel. We're just working, 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 working. So then when time to vote comes around, it's like a wrench being thrown in the schedule. What do you mean? I don't have time to think about that. I still have to feed my kids. I still have to go to work. I still have to provide for my rent. So and then all this political rhetoric is thrown in there and they don't know what to do with it. You know what I mean? We don't know what to do with that information when it is, or how, or to know how it affects our everyday lives when the people that are running, the people who are going to be elected affects all of those things. So we have to take a minute, we have to take some time out of our busy schedule to educate ourselves, even if it's to go to a particular office, even if it's to Google people, whatever you need to do, go to, again, a forum like yours that you're going to have to just to learn, because voting is so important. Now, I don't want to monopolize time, so I'm going to break, but there's so much more I would want to say. But I'm going to break to make sure everybody get a chance to speak.
Okay, to piggyback on what Attorney Thompson was saying about the fact that everyone's bogged down with different things that are going on in their lives, you need to take time out to listen and do research and pay attention to what's in the news. Not everything in the news is true. Not everything in the news is false. You got to listen to the rhetoric. You got to listen to who cares about your well-being. You got to listen to how what is done and what is said is going to affect you personally. And don't go on the fact that you don't like somebody, or the fact that, let's say, for example, you don't want to see a woman or think a woman could be in charge, or you don't want to vote for a white guy. You don't want to vote for a black woman because she's black. You got to set aside those things. I didn't get in the position that I had gotten into relying on those in my race to support me. I relied on those who paid attention, did the research, and I believe saw that I had been in this community for almost 40 plus years, since I was 18 years old. And the individuals who were running against me, had only come into the community to run for that position. You know, people wanted someone who was vested in this community, who knew what was needed in this community, and who was going to try and help those in the community that were struggling. And that's what you got to look at in the current election. Who's going to help those that are struggling? Who's going to help those as far as the cost of just living, and who's affecting the fact that your wages aren't where they should be because rent's going up, so your wages need to go up so that you can survive. You know, who's going to look at that? Who's going to take care of that? Or who doesn't care? That's what you have to look at, and people have to do their research. And
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah. I kind of want to walk tying into what Attorney Thompson, the big sister queen, mentioned, in a way where, like, you know, cost of living. And one of the things I do appreciate in my younger years, past prayers, there's a level of, like, there's a way, like, you mentioned it, but as far as, like, some of those local issues as well that really affect what we do and how we are. And even with the judge, given his experience as far as how he moved forward, could you give us, like, an example of, you know, maybe a local official and how it, you talked about the food stamps, and shout out to your podcast. What's your podcast? Because you be going hard on your podcast.
Civic with Sandra. So again, that's what one of the things I'm doing right now is I'm listening to things that I hear in the community, just like the judge said, you know, hearing a lot of Black men, particularly, there's some Black women as well, downing specifically a Black woman candidate for president. You know, going out their way to down her. But I think you asked about local elections. So with now local election, you're talking about a lot of the parts of the city in West York, we have the 95th. Now, so I know that NAACP is nonpartisan, but you do have to look at issues. You may not be able to say who to vote for, but you can point out the differences in issues. Now, taking that 95th as an example, the goal is to flip the House. That's the goal. Right now, the Democratic Party House has the Pennsylvania House of Representatives only by about one vote. So if, say, Representative Carol Hill Evans loses that seat and their goal is to flip that seat to Republican, that means all the initiatives that were passed because the Democrats held that seat would no longer be put forth. such as $13 million, 13, almost $14 million coming into York City School District. There's a reality. The reality is York County has about 4 to 5 representatives statewide for the House. One is Democrat, the rest are Republican. All Republicans voted against the budget, meaning they voted against that money coming into York City and other school districts. And that money is to combat, obviously, lack of supplies, mental health issues, violence issues. So $13 million is a game changer for the City of York School District. And so if you bring another person in there who is registered, who has to, if they're a registered Republican, they are going to follow that mandate. That is no ifs, ands, or buts about that. They have caucuses they have to go to. So they have to choose what caucus you're going to go to when you're elected, the Democrat or the Republican caucus. And whatever the initiatives this side wants is what, if they have the majority, that's what they're going to get. That's why they have not before been able to pass a higher minimum wage, because since 2023 was the first time Democrats were able to take the Pennsylvania House. So that was the first time these initiatives were able to be passed. So all those raising the minimum wage, more money to school districts, all that type of stuff, we would not be able to win if the House is flipped.
So peep game. So I appreciate you breaking it down because you literally went to the issue, and then there's a level like even your values and how they align. And sometimes when you talk, there's a level of like, it is what it is, right? And I want to acknowledge the fact that good brother Jeffrey, the Bro King, he did join us. So
Okay,
thank
great.
you. He was waiting in the Zoom.
Hey
Jeff,
guys, how you guys doing?
Good. Oh, it's juicy, bro. I'm gonna loop you right in because I want to make sure as a connecting point, as a facilitator, like Attorney Thompson, Sister Queen, Prez, past Prez, and what the judge was saying earlier. So, Judge, you was like, and one of the things you said earlier, Judge, it was more so around, God help me, I was writing it down, but I want to pay attention to. There was a level of like some of the research and even the news. You letting us be known that the misinformation, like, so how do one process the misinformation that may be in the news with an understanding like there is some things that literally distract you from who you are to kind of get you sucked in this. I mean, whether it be the technology, whether it be the loopholes of the things like that, the algorithm that literally sucks you in. Like, how can one literally understand who they are?
What I've done, just so that I can stand on an argument that I believe in and being bipartisan, I listen to all of the news sources that are available to me.
Okay.
I'll listen to all news sources, regardless of what their thoughts are or who they're leaning towards. I just listen to what they say, and I just try and put all that meat together, and I spit out the bone. In a simple way of putting it. And when you talk about, Attorney Thompson talked about the 95th. And you look at who's running for the 95th, and I'm not here to show any favoritism, but look at the track record of the person that you know and who you don't know, and what they've been able to accomplish at their level. And that's where a lot of it starts, is at the local level. When you show support at the local level and they are fighting for you, it leads into the other levels, but you got to pay attention to what's going on locally in your area to try and affect what happens nationally for everybody. And that's the gist of what I have to say. You have to pay attention, and you have to be aware, because you are getting benefits from having something from someone that you know their track record than from someone that you don't know anything about, but just happens to be running. Don't need favoritism. That's the best way I can put it. And that's what I mean by do your research and pay attention.
Yeah. So look,
and don't argue and say, well, I'm not voting for so-and-so, when in actuality, you're not even registered. Or
That's the other point.
You don't even know how to vote, because it's not the same. You don't just push a lever. You got to read. See? Right. And if they want to hide something from you, they put it in a book because they know you're not going to read. So you have to read and pay attention. That's all I got to say.
For now. So, so good brother. Thank you, Judge. So many jewels. And I want to kind of bring Brother JD. So let's take it from a self intro, introduce yourself, good brother, and then there's a level of like, the social political intelligence. That's we still on Q1 in a way. We're like, what are your thoughts? How do we just share? I'm sure you heard us, and I appreciate the perspective and even how we connected. So I literally want to step back so you could step into this conversation as well. JD, you still there, right?
Here.
Okay, it's all you, bro.
So I'm glad to meet everyone here. I'm just stepping in, so I'm sorry I came a little late. I was in the waiting room a little bit, waiting for you guys to
No
catch
worries,
it.
and I apologize, King. My bad.
No, it's not your fault. I'm just glad just to be in. I'm looking at what you guys have done and just being around the city of York. Man, I feel so welcome there, and I can't say the same everywhere in Pennsylvania. Of course, Philly is Philly, but I live in the Berks County area, and I've been visiting Harrisburg and York, and just it almost feel like I'm going to Atlanta. The Black welcome, the welcoming, and just everyone saying, "Hey, whatever you have, whatever talent you have, I just feel like hey, welcome home, bring it here." And I have it since I've been living in Pennsylvania for 19 years now. Since I've lived in Pennsylvania, I have not felt such a welcome anywhere in Pennsylvania. So I definitely want to shout you guys out for that. I definitely feel the welcome and feel the Black love there, and the history. I'm just here to learn, so I really appreciate you guys welcoming me in, and I really appreciate it a lot. It's just so much love, from the minute the rep met me, she's like, "Yo, you got to meet Jamil. Do you know Jamil?" I was like, I don't know him, but I will get to know him if you, whatever you need. She's like, "Look, listen, I have to introduce you to this brother. You have to meet him right away." And from there on, brother has been showing me so much love, and that's how we first started. That's how we met. And my organization, we have a partnership with another organization called ZNE, and we were doing book bag drives for the community out there in York and in Harrisburg, especially for the Haitian community also too. You guys know there's a big Haitian population in York, about 9,000 Haitians now that just moved to York, and in Harrisburg probably another 10,000. So in Pennsylvania alone, there's been 750,000 Haitians and Cubans um, that settled in the state of Pennsylvania. So it's been a lot. We've been doing a lot of work, reaching out and figuring out what they need. How can we support them? But also too, letting people know that they're here to work. They're here to add value. They're here to partner up with the African American community, and we're all Afro Caribbean, Afro American, whatever. What we all Black at the end of the day. Nobody can tell us no difference from each other. So we just been making sure, me as being someone that's been here, that I could speak both languages, that be the bridge and the gap between the two communities, and to say, hey, we're all here together and we're all one. How can we add more value together? How can we add value to each other? Hey, what do you guys have going on here? Here's what we're doing over here. Here's the restaurant we have here. Here's the stores that we have here. How can we support and back each other? So I actually went to Mark and Val, their winery the other day, and I was just totally blown out, totally amazed how we have Black owned, our own Black owned winery, and it's just I'm just so stunned by the city of York, man. How much Black owned businesses you guys have, and how much you guys are so much more proactive than any other place in Pennsylvania. Like I said, Philly's Philly, but I can't say I see the same support and same welcome in any other place that I've seen in Pennsylvania, like I've seen in York and Harrisburg. Definitely York for sure.
So we've come this far. Faith, bro. And I appreciate you even uplifting that, because there's a level of like, one, the advocacy and the grassroots efforts you do with the community, Haitian brothers and sisters who have literally been here. And there's a level of like you as a Black man, business owner, entrepreneur, right? Which brings me to Q2 in a way where like, one, the Gemini, I mean, to find the balance of things, there's a level of like education and informing, but then it's like, how do you stay hopeful? Because there's a level of like, no matter who wins, we all have to coexist. So when
Yeah.
it comes to advocacy and understanding the knowledge of self, and yet you all as experts in your own values and issues, like how do you encourage other folks who in our county or in this virtual world space that we're in right now on the Zoom and Facebook Live, like what is the day-to-day, short-term, long-term goals, whether they win or not win, to understand who you are and advocate for you, what you believe in, right? Because I know we're talking about the elections November 5th, our elections NAACP November 12th, but when it's all said and done, like elections or not, there's still things that you believe in. How do you go about that?
Well, I gotta say, since right now, I think we prepare for the day, we work the day, but we prepare for the future. You know what I mean? So those are things always we need to do. We live in the moment, we tackle the things we need to tackle in the moment, but we still have to plan for tomorrow. You know what I mean? This is off subject, but this is also why I like to tell people that as long as you wake up another day and allow yourself to wake up another day, then you still have another opportunity. So always give yourself that next day. Don't give up on tomorrow. So I always like to put that little plug in there. But so the first step, obviously we're living, we're working, we're doing what we need to do for today's purposes. But when we do and we should be concerned about that election, because that election will determine our next 4 years or so, and really above and beyond that. Because when we talk about 2016 and the opportunity of president appointing Supreme Court justices, and then to learn all of the protections that were gutted. So those are lasting things. So we do have to look beyond art today to see how these people will affect art tomorrow. And I really think it's important for us to also think about our children and grandchildren and how they will be affected, because of the fact that the people back in the 50s and 60s and before that who marched and died and bled and were hung and were buried, they did that for us. They did that so we could have an opportunity to vote. And like the judge said, they used to hide things in a book to keep it from us. They used to do reading tests before we could vote. They used to have a jar of, things, whether it's jelly beans or whatever, but things in a jar. We had to guess the number of things in a jar before we could vote. Right now, we don't have all those barriers. So we have to stop thinking that voting is not important. So again, preparing. October 21st is the deadline to register to vote. I put in the comments on this Facebook, your NAACP Facebook, under this. I put in the comments where you can check your voter registration. They are also purging people from the voting rolls. That's how important voting is, that they're kicking you off. They're making it as hard as they can for you to vote, while at the same time trying to trick you to say voting is not important or voting doesn't matter. So please register to vote. Because if you're not prepared by being registered, the judge said, if you're not prepared by that, then even if you change your mind and decided to vote, you couldn't. So you have a deadline of October 21st to register to vote. Then even if you're working, so make a plan to vote. So register to vote, make a plan to vote. So do you normally work that day? All right. Well, do you need to take off? You can't take off. There is a mail-in ballot. Walk in to the Board of Elections, request a mail-in ballot, fill it out right there, turn it in right there. Have your ID so they can check who you are, and you have voted. So do that on your day off. So make a plan to vote if you need a ride. I know that NAACP will give rides. There's lots of parties who give rides, whatever your registration is, they give rides. So make a plan to vote, then vote. If you're not sure who to vote for, Google them. Ask your party headquarters for information because they have them there about the people. And really, I'm telling you, you better check this record when somebody say, "Oh man, I'm going back to the deception." I can't understand. So listen, I'm a forthright person. I'm a take it or leave me type of person. That means I put out who I am and you either take me or leave me. So that's what I respect. Right now, I have a problem with the 95th right now because you have two candidates, Carol Hill Evans, who's Democrat. You have Jasmine Rivera, who's registered Republican, running as a Republican, went through the primary as a Republican, but on none of her materials, nowhere in her conversation does she disclose that she's a Republican. So people in the community believe she's a Democrat. People in the community believe she's an independent. She's not. And that is an issue of being an informed voter and not being duped. So I think so. This is where I'm saying I believe in being forthright. So if a person should say, I am a Republican, but I'm going to do different from them, I don't have their agenda. That's what they should do if that's what their position is. But I am concerned because that's not what's happening.
So, said that because there's a level of clarity. Next Thursday, make sure y'all pull up Kyle Martin venue. Thank you, York NAACP in the chat. And I gotta make sure we shout out the Deltas as well by way of Sister Serena Barnes and even brother Derek, in a way where there was a collaboration of the QR codes. It's on the NAACP page as far as and this is where I appreciate past press, Big Sis, in a way where I almost went through that. The first person I called was President Sanders because they was trying not to let me vote. Remember this press? Remember that press?
Yeah, well, it's been a while, so I kind of remember, not totally remember, but exactly. This is what I'm saying. People call me all the time on a lot of different things, whether it's legal issue, political issue. I'm going to try to educate you. So that's what I'm going to do. And if I can give you some quick do this, that other, then that's what I will do.
So building on what JD said in the chat, as far as we standing on, as far as you all, we spoke to the legends of the past, but you being a living legend and then bringing it back to the big homie living legend, and you said this a little bit. So, Judge and JD, I'm coming back to you too, because when you talk about the economic status and the hows of how does that trickle down to entrepreneurs, business owners, and even those who are literally living here now. I want to come to you with that one, but Judge, there's a level of you won. First Black magisterial judge. How did you get there? How did you get there? Because I need people to understand how important.
I feel, first of all, I got to give honor to God because it was a blessing. It was something that was already written that no one could change. But what happened was, and through my journey, there were numerous individuals who may not have been voters, who may have been voters, who didn't know me. And when you don't know someone, don't say you know them, say you know of them. And then get to educate yourself in finding out more about that individual and not listening to generational hate that might have been passed down to you about an individual. And don't believe everything anybody says. And that goes even with what's going on today. You gotta, as a child, you knew who cared about you. You just innately knew who cared about you. And you've got to, follow individuals who have empathy, compassion, respect, and just genuine concern for others. And that's in any position that a person holds. School board, Senate, mayor, any position you got to vote for, the 95th, you got to rely on individuals and on your own judgment of individuals, not what someone told you about them. Learn for yourself. You know what I mean? What I've learned through my journey is if I don't know you, I'm going to find out about you. I'm not going to go off of what somebody said about you, because their perception of you may be different than mine. I need to develop my own perception of you and explain to you why I view the way I do because of the way you did this and did that, and make my own judgment. I mean, that's the only way we're going to move forward. You know, people have got to be concerned about others and not be selfish, you know, or just directed in a direction of hate by other individuals and how they feel. Let's move in a direction of how you feel and how a person makes you feel, you know, and what they can do for you and what they've done for you, you know, not what they're saying they're going to do. People need to understand how politics works. The president may promise you something, but if the Senate and the Congress are influenced by others that are on a different agenda than yours, you're not going to get done what you're telling people you can do. I mean, you've got to have everyone's got to be on the same page, you know. And it's
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
they've got to be on the same page. The only way we're going to get anything done. And I sit back and I listen. And I say, wow, do you care? People put you there. Who do you care about? Do you care about all the people or just those that you golf with? I don't play golf, so you don't care about me because I don't play golf. But if you like people that play chess, I'm your man. So that I'll leave it at that.
So I heard it was a candidate a couple of years ago, and that was listening to that candidate a couple of years ago was the first time that it sort of clicked in my head that they kept talking about community, but for every word they used, and it was a local candidate, but every word they used, I knew they were not talking about my community. So just like you said, Judge, as far as what community talking about, you really have to realize, and the reality is, even if you think that they live in your community, doesn't mean they're talking about your community. You know what I mean? You got to look at what their aspirations are, so many different things, because where's their money coming from? Because if their money is coming from a particular source, then that means they pledged allegiance to those sources. People don't give you money for you not to
Right.
dance in the way they want you to dance. And you better look at that where that source of money is coming from for the 95th as well. All those signs just mean people donated for those signs. It don't mean voters, it means donations. Where do those donations come from? So that's who that person is for, from where that money is coming from.
You know what they say? Show me the money, JD. Anything like
Yeah.
that's
You know, Brother Jamil,
yes,
I don't really like putting strategy out. But see,
Talk to him.
I'm from, to be real, I'm from the hood. Okay.
Talk to me.
And when you're in the hood, you go out and you register people. And when you register people, you keep their names and their phone numbers, because sometimes our people, they'll register, but they need a push to do something that they're not accustomed to doing. So you see to it, like you said, with Attorney Thompson said, with the NAACP and other organizations, you got to pick them up and you got to Uber them to the polls. And I've seen individuals who supported me who couldn't read, and they had someone with them to assist them in doing what they needed to do. So if you need assistance, let someone know you need assistance. But the first thing you got to do is, like Attorney Thompson said, October 21st is the last day to register. If you're not registered, if you're not going to be about it, don't talk about it. You've got you've got to get registered.
So that's 4 days from now.
Yes.
Actually, you only have 2 days to do it, because the election bureau, unless you do it online, the election bureau is not open on the weekends.
Right.
However, your kids are there and they're more savvy on the computer and the iPad than you are. Put them to work. Make them earn their meal for that night. Register you.
Yo, you really talking big homie talk, earn the mule. You said something earlier too. I'm like, dang, I ain't heard that one since my uncle. I forgot what it was. I said the big homie. I want to make sure, JD, any thoughts, you know what I mean? I know we flowing and I love it. And I want to make sure we overlook.
Well, you probably want to hear, don't talk about it if you're not going to be about it. So
be about it. Is that what the one? Yeah, that's the one
you got to be about it. If you're gonna be about it, talk about it. But if not,
Mhm.
talk about it. Don't talk about voting if you're not gonna vote.
That's
You know,
right.
or you're not registered. Yeah, don't talk about it.
Jeff, anything? Thank you, Big Jeff.
Yeah, I think, we're at the time now where, you know, especially on the financial space, how policy affects finances, how policy affects access to capital. Our people really, back in when I was younger, I was just like, man, none of this stuff matters. You're working, you're gonna have to work. Whoever's in an office, who's not in office, it didn't matter. But as I started seeing things different, especially when I seen New York State change their laws for minority women-owned business enterprises. And what New York State did back in 2015 was they passed a law. It's called the 15A, and basically the law made a certain amount, made the government put a certain amount of contracts towards minority women-owned businesses. In 2020, it got revised. They bumped it up, and they started advocating from 2020 on to 2023, where they were able to get 30%. They allocated 30% of the government contracts had to go to a minority women-owned business enterprises. And in 2023, they hit 33%. Now, what does that mean financially, right? Well, that means Black people are getting more money. Any minorities is getting more money, but especially for us, we're getting more money. We're getting more contract from the states. So that automatically send a flag to the banks where now, hey, if you're MWBE and you live in the Bronx, if you're MWBE and you live in Queens or Brooklyn or Rochester, well, we have a specialized loan for you with a special rate just for you, 5%. The market is doing at 8%, 10%, 15%. Guess what? Since you're part of this group now, we're going to take care of you. And that all has to do how policy affects the overall, affects our money when we don't think it happens. And not to cut you off, but we have to start group interest. Everybody does group interest. Everybody does group banking. Jews do group banking. They go to a bank and they say, you know what, you're going to give us access to capital. You're going to we want special interest. We want special features that comes with anyone that come from our synagogues and wherever, and say, hey, we're going to bank with you. This is the type of package they get. And because they have done that, that's why they have the type of access, and that's why they have the type of businesses that they have. We have to start doing the same thing along, with as we're voting and as we're doing everything else. We have to start that group think and that group movement in everything that we do.
That's how we came here. Along the way, but the collective power, like when there's a level of
resilience,
focus, and the time is of the essence, because I wanted to make sure we start wrapping up around 6:30. We've been on the John. This is dope. I want to make sure I want to open up the Zoom, and I'm haven't really paid attention to the Facebook. I do apologize, but I'm trying to listen and keep up with you all, and I'll make sure we get to that. And this is being recorded, but I just want to kind of like do a go around, like any final thought or any just share openly. The wisdom is in the Zoom. If I was on site, and I appreciate the best practice from New York, Brother Jeff, that you literally just shared. PA, you heard what he said. We can make that happen here. Policies and finances. But then there's a level of like, you know what I mean? The wisdom is in the Zoom. Final thought, wrap up, close out, and thank you all again. And popcorn style, whoever would like to share.
Well, I just say that we've been subjected and victimized by that divide and conquer mentality for centuries. And I think almost all of us spoke to it in one way or another, that we have to move past that. And right now, that's what's happening from the presidential down to the local election, is still that divide and conquer from Black men, Black women, disenfranchise people of color, to disenfranchise white people, to disenfranchise United States citizens, to disenfranchise immigrants who came here because a lot of times they were fleeing for their lives. And everybody else is made the enemy. And we keep looking at each other's, our neighbors, as the enemy and not looking at the people who, the businesses, the billionaires, the millionaires who just refuse to put money back into circulation to allow you to have the higher wage, to allow rents to be lowered, for supplies to be lowered, medications to be lowered. And as long as you continue to take a bite at that bit of division, then we will continue to lose as a people. We will continue to lose as a collective. And right now, we ask that you vote. And we ask that you do vote for, I think the judge said, for people who are empathetic, for people who are not saying that I want to give tax breaks to their billionaires. And don't be fooled by it. No tax on tips, because if you increase that minimum wage, those tips ain't going to matter as much if I can get a livable wage. So give me money in my pocket and let me do what I want to do with my money instead of you keeping the money for yourself. And that's how we should believe our vote is important. And that's how we should be voting. And vote for people who continue to put money into this community, who have been here in this community, and saying to people like JD, meet this brother Jamil, who've been saying to people, hey, this person has a grant, or this entity has a grant, you have a business, apply for that grant. And that's what's been happening for years in the 95th. And we need to keep the 95th as it is so it can continue to happen for our community.
Okay, in closing, I'll just say that, if you are going to vote, you've got to understand that just because someone that looks like you has never been in that position doesn't mean that someone like you can't hold that position, because what you're doing is giving hope and a dream to the future. And I'm a strong believer, and Jamil knows it, that our youth are the future. I got to lay my head down one day, and I want to know that those that come behind me are going to be in a much better place. And that's the best way I can put it. The only way you're going to get people that look like you in positions of power is to put those people in those positions, and the numbers are there. You have the ability to do it. Don't let anyone tell you that you can't, and don't let any type of hate or dislike that is fed into your head show that you won't. It's positive in, positive out. As long as you're hanging around like-minded individuals who are putting positive in, we're going to get positive results. And that's all I have to say. And I say, looking for the future.
I'll say my last few words. I'm gonna be quick and brief. You guys just said everything I could say. I think it's time for us to start. I know it. We always say separate from the crowd, and what everyone else doing, you got to do the opposite. But and it works in some aspects, but when there's a few, the few of the great ones, we have to do it. The only way to be great, we have to do it together. And that may be 40 out of 1,000, and that may be 5 out of the 100. It may be 10 out of the 10,000. And if those are the few people that few group of people that stick together and that do it. Look, listen, in any business, in anything in the world, 80% of the work is done by the 20% of the people that's in that business, not the 80%. So when 20% of the population decide to make a decision that we're going to be great, this is how we're going to move, and we're going to do it together, we do 80% of the moving, and the rest can be done by everybody else. But as long as we stick together and we make the decisions, and whatever you guys are doing in York, we will be doing in Berks County. We'll be doing that in Pottstown. We'll be doing it in Harrisburg. We're going to move. Our 20 is going to move everywhere. And that's how it has to be. We have to move and in group think and group ideas in every aspect of the way, in the way that we vote, in the way that we do banking, in the way that we support our own businesses. That's how we have to do it. And don't let anything separate us. Not oh, you're African American and I'm Afro Caribbean. None of that stuff matters. At the end of the day, we're all black. You know, we're born black, we're gonna die black. So you know that's all that matters, and that's what we have to do.
Yeah. Take it to the Negro spiritual. On every hand, thank you all. Thank you all. Te quiero mucho. Muchas gracias. I even acknowledge Sister Queen Morgan on the Judge, Attorney, Big Sis Queen, Bro King JD. Thank you. Thank you, Derek. I haven't really got on the edge, but I want to make sure, boom, vote. Last day to register, 21st. Thank you for the update because at the level of this closed on the weekend, so you need to get that done now. 21st is the last day. Even Judge even saying, like, use your young folks. Shout out to my son and my daughter because they keep me savvy, they keep me fresh. But I'm not as young as I used to be. But this is where the intergenerational love grows and us continue to come together beyond. And I heard President Sandra talking about those isms, whether they be demographics, whether it be ageism, whether it be just like, no, we coming together. JD, appreciate it. Coming all things working together for the greater good for them. Because we are called. Peace and blessings, y'all. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you, King. Okay, we good. Stop the recording.